Good morning. Glad you could join us. I want to share some thoughts that I picked up from Max Lucado in his book entitled Grace. I want to open by reading 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. God, who said, "Let light shine out of darkness," made his light shine in our hearts to give us the light of the knowledge of God's glory displayed in the face of Christ. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. I love that expression, jars of clay. Now, there was a pop band in the back, I think in the 90s, Christian band. It was called Jars of Clay. And the idea is that we've got these brittle, fragile jars of clay. These bodies aren't going to last forever. Some of us are more and more aware of that every day. The older we get, I think we get that. But what he's saying is we have this treasure in them. Well, what's the treasure? Well, it's the light. It's the knowledge of God's glory displayed in the face of Christ. It's like seeing the face of Jesus. Simply put, it's the Holy Spirit. So let me put it this way to you. What if I told you that the real treasure that God has for you is, drum roll, it's Him? Would you be disappointed? I remember preaching on this in a different context back when I was in Lincoln Park. Because Abraham, who has a covenant with God, and we're the fulfillment of that covenant. The Mosaic covenant, in essence, is obsolete. That covenant is obsolete. But the new covenant is the extension with the Abrahamic covenant. But God makes a promise to Abraham, and He says that I'll be your shield. And then He says, I'll be your reward. It's like, wait a minute. So I thought, where are the prizes? And God said, I'm the prize. I'm it. Let that sink in for just a moment. Because I think for some people, they're kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. I heard something about streets of gold. If you're excited about the streets of gold and not meeting Jesus, you're missing something here. Because all God's trying to say about having streets of gold or a street of gold or buildings of gold and stuff is, God's saying, what's scarce on planet Earth and valuable therefore, I got more. I can pave streets with gold. That's no big thing to me. What is a big thing to God, what I'm afraid is too scarce, is people who actually love Him. And people who love Him not just for His hand, but for His face. And so I love that it talks about displayed in the face of Christ. So what's the difference between the hand of God and the face of God? It's pretty simple. A lot of us want what God can do for us. God, could you give me this? God, I've got this list of things that I really need. You ever feel like some people just come to you when they need something? Some of you are like, yeah, I know exactly what that's like. There's all sorts of different contexts. But here's the thing. We know that when somebody comes to us, because they just want us. So I don't have any biological children. But there's a young man in Haiti who a long time ago started calling me Papa Paul. His name's Christian, and I'm like his dad. And I remember when we were down there, so I guess it's about 4 years ago now, and he was around the airport, and we were leaving for the airport that day, and he showed up where we were at with a truck, and it was really bad roads. I mean, it's all muddy, and there was tons of rain. It was kind of a monsoon kind of thing. And so I asked Christian, I'm like, could you take us to the airport with the luggage? I'm afraid the other vehicles aren't going to get through. And he's like, sure. So he stuck around. We loaded up the luggage. I drove with him. And I remember when I took a $20 bill out of my pocket and I handed it to him, he's like, no, Papa. I'm like, I mean, I've done a lot of things for him, but I'm like, wait a minute. So I put it in the grill, in the dashboard of his car, his truck. And he's like, no. He hands it back to me. To me, he didn't want my hand anymore. He just made me so proud that he wouldn't take that from me. What if we got to heaven and all there was Jesus, no streets of gold, no nothing else? Would you be happy? I think really most of us would be if we really understood what that meant. And we have that treasure within us now. Let's seek the face of God, not just the hand. We need His hand. I'm not saying we don't. But boy, to seek Him just for His face makes His day the same way it made my day. God bless you. Have a great one.